Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Mancuso, and this is AP Bio Unit 3 Cell Energetics. We have already been working on enzymes, so we are going to skip past that one, and today we're going to focus on reactions that cells do and how they use ATP. And then our next things we're going to study are photosynthesis and respiration. So let's get started here. So cell energetics, what that really means. So first of all, every cell is going to require energy to survive. So you need energy to maintain order, and you need energy to do all cellular processes. So everything a cell needs to do, whether it's moving something or creating a molecule, like building proteins and then the cell moving to go do something, all of those things require energy. So it constantly needs this input of energy to survive. Pretty basic idea, one of the general laws of thermodynamics. There has to be more energy coming in than energy being used in order to survive. The most common forms of energy. Now, here's where I'm really going back to some chemistry. So thermal energy, phase energy, and chemical energy. So thermal energy we think of as heat. So basic temperature changes record thermal energy. Heat is produced in our reactions. Really easy for you to think about, because as soon as you start working out, you start sweating because your body is producing heat. Another energy change that isn't really happening in your body, but phase changes. Solids have the least energy. Liquids, the molecules are moving faster, so they have more energy. And gases, they're moving the quickest, so they have the most phase energy. Phase energy is also another word for potential energy. In the past, it has been like kinetic for thermal energy and potential for phase energy. And so in chemistry, we're just sort of phasing out those words and using these more. And then chemical, we think of reactions that are occurring. So right away, you know of some reactions like hydrolysis and dehydration synthesis. Those reactions are either going to require energy going in, or they're going to produce energy. So if a reaction is endergonic, it is going to require or absorb or need energy to occur. But if a reaction is exergonic, exer means that it is going to produce energy. So based on that energetics, so it isn't a straight across rule which reactions produce and release. It actually can be quite different. But the most basic idea is that if you are breaking apart a molecule, like if you take a protein and break it down into amino acids, you will be exergonic. You will be producing energy. Whereas if you have a building reaction, that's going to be an endergonic reaction. All right, so our molecule that is so important in cellular energy is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So the triphosphate is right here, 1, 2, 3 phosphate groups. This is the ribose, the 5-carbon sugar right here. And this is adenine. They call it adenosine. When it has sine at the end, that means it is with a sugar. So this is adenine, which is a nitrogen-based compound. So this is that double ring of carbon and nitrogen. This one is actually purine because it's a double ring. So that's what makes up ATP's molecule. These are said to be high energy bonds, meaning that when you break, how we were just talking about if it's exergonic or endergonic, this bond right here is said to be a high energy bond, because if you break it, you will release energy. If you need to attach it, that's going to require energy. Now, an easy way to remember that is each phosphate group is negative. When you put a negative next to a negative, they don't really want to be there. So in order to add that on, it's going to require energy. But when you let it out, when you break it off, that's going to release energy. So I remember a professor telling me once, you think about it as each one of these as like three little boys sitting in the back seat of the car. You put one in the back seat of the car and it's fine, no problem. You add a second boy to the back seat of the car for a long trip. Oh, these two negatives don't really like to be next to each other. You add a third boy in, whoo, that is high energy. Those three molecules repel each other and don't really want to be in the same space. So that's why this is a high energy. If you think about it in terms of actual how much energy, if you break this off, you can release 7 kilocalories. And a kilocalorie is what we consider as our calories. So they say that's about equivalent to 1 peanut. So the energy of you eating 1 peanut is equal to that energy of that bond. All right, let's keep going here. So exergonic versus endergonic reactions. So I'm going to take you back to chemistry again. Here's our reaction mechanism. If we have an exergonic reaction, we start off with something that has a lot of energy, and it still needs a little bit more energy to actually react. And then it releases energy, and there is our product. Okay, so what is in this diagram? So first of all, over here, this is our energy. This here to here, this is the energy of my reactants. At the end, this is the energy of my products. This is what you call your activation energy, the energy needed for the molecules to collide and be at their full potential. And then the difference between where you end and where you start, so here to here, that is your delta H or your delta G. Oops, I don't know why they are moving here. Put this back. Okay, that is your energy of the reaction. It is always P minus R. So P is really low here. Again, not sure why this is moving as I do it. Okay, so delta G, the energy of the reaction. Okay, P minus R. So my value here is very low. So let's just put some values here. Let's say that this one is 10 and this one is 50. So 10 minus 50 would give me a negative 40. A negative energy of a reaction means that I am releasing energy. If it was positive, that means energy has to go in. When it's negative, it means, hey, it didn't require anything going in. It actually had energy come out of the reaction. So that's what it's meant by exergonic, energy released from the reaction. All right, and then the opposite, an endergonic reaction, would go like this. You would start with something that didn't have much energy. You need a lot of energy going in for it to actually react, and then your product has more energy than your reactants. So here is the energy of the reactants. Here is the energy of the products. Here to here, that is your activation energy. So a lot of energy had to go in for this reaction to happen. And the difference from where you end to where you start, that is your delta. It depends on what, if you're measuring heat or you're measuring energy. We'll say we're just measuring energy here. So P minus R. Let's put some numbers here again. Let's say this is 100 and let's say this is 20. So 100 minus 20 is positive 80. A positive value tells me it's an endergonic reaction. It is requiring energy to begin. I do want to add one more thing to this reaction. If I had a catalyst, I would start at this exact same place because a catalyst doesn't alter the energy of your reactant. It just speeds up your reaction. And it speeds up your reaction by lowering the energy needed for these molecules to collide, which means it lowers activation energy. So now my activation energy with a catalyst is much lower. So this would be activation energy with a catalyst. So for example, an enzyme, you added an enzyme, your reactant still has the same energy, your product still has the same energy, but two things happened: lower activation energy, and look, it's done faster. The reaction happens faster when you have a catalyst there. All right, let's see. Do I have another slide? All right, coupled reactions. So when you couple a reaction, that means you want to couple an endergonic with an exergonic reaction. So this reaction is going to need ATP, and this kind of a reaction is going to release ATP. So you couple them up, you make them happen together. So for example, I could have an endergonic reaction here that I am going to build a protein. So I'm going to start with amino acids, and I am going to build a protein. So that reaction is endergonic. It requires energy going in. So I'm going to have that matched up with a reaction like this. Coupling, you usually make the arrows go like this. So as I take the amino acids and build a protein, I'm going to take ATP and break it, make it into ADP and PI, inorganic phosphate. That's what this stands for. So ADP, D-diphosphate, it only is going to have 2 of those phosphates on it. This reaction is exergonic. So that means this reaction provides the energy for this reaction to occur. And I could at the same time have this happen. ADP could be made into ATP if I have another reaction happening. So at the same time, I could take, I'll make my reactions go like this so they look like they're opposite each other. So this one's going to be endergonic. This one's going to be exergonic. That means the energy is going to go from this reaction to this reaction. So an exergonic reaction could be taking glucose and doing respiration. So respiration is when you take the glucose from the food that you eat and you break it down into carbon dioxide and water. So that reaction is going to release energy, and that energy could be used to make more ATP. So this is what you call the coupling of reactions. Another little fun fact that I wanted to mention, just because we've already done enzymes, I'm going to go back here to my ATP molecule. A cool thing to note. Oh, I do have something under here. Oh, I just have ATP being broken down into ADP. Oh, and this is what I talked about, like how there's about 7 kilocalories of energy that happens. What happened was this one phosphate was released, and so now this is ADP, and this is PI, inorganic phosphate, meaning not attached to a carbon molecule. The cool thing that I wanted to mention is that there's a very common cofactor. So remember, cofactors are those metal ions that assist reactions. They can help out with enzymes, and they can help out with ATP. And one of the common cofactors that works with ATP is magnesium. So we know magnesium is definitely a metal. The ion that it takes is a +2, and it often works with ATP. So just another fun fact for you. All right, let me know if you have any questions, and next we'll be moving on to photosynthesis.